Editing Andrea's episode caused me to think about why there's so much conversation about the lack of critical thinking in FMB, especially within the guest featured on our Days Off series. Just going off my experience in the industry, it is a wide spectrum. You have individuals who research so much and learn a lot. Their knowledge is incredible in the field that they are in, and they possess the intelligence to apply it to the business. On the other hand though, you have people who just float around the job. Now of course there are factors that make these comparisons not as linear as it seems. That's why we're here to discuss it. We all know that there is almost zero barrier of entry into FMB. Most of us, when we were growing up in tertiary education, would hold a part-time job, and a fat percentage of that is in FMB. I started off modestly in Delifrance, beside a relic in Singapore's modern history, and it's called Underwater World. Welcome to Food for Thought, guys. There is a lot to appreciate about a job that requires no qualifications. Like for us when we were young, it's good honest part-time work to fatten up the allowance that we already have, and if we take it a little more seriously, we kind of get exposed to financial literacy at a younger age. And in a time where jobs are hard to come by, it's really a wonder that the biggest industry, in this country at least, has almost no barrier of entry.
It's something like a free, easy entry to start and see whether you want to progress from there, or maybe not for me I want to go and try something else.
Because FMB also requires cheap labour. So in that sense, people who are just looking to tide through a 6 months period wouldn't mind a lower level of wages in order to just do something that's a bit more mindless in that sense.
In all fairness, it's an incredible privilege to have should you be interested in the industry. I don't think you can rock up at like a HR firm if you're interested in HR with no prior education or track record or anything on your resume. However, with pros, there are cons as well. When you're in the job purely for the bag, for most part, you care way less.
The motivation is very different. Like you enter this role thinking that, oh, I'm just going to tide through the 6 months and then go back to school. So you don't think like, oh, I'm trying to do this job to be the best I can, to serve to the standards of the restaurant, or whether this is going to be something I want to pursue in the future. In the long run, people will feel like, restaurants always hire cheap labor and therefore service quality has never improved over the years. So you will eventually become a perception that people will always have in the future, and therefore it will become a stigma.
Just a disclaimer, this isn't a blame game, it's merely how it is. Most establishments do not have the resources to better the matter, so I'm hoping conversations like this will help improve the solutions in the near future.
There are a lot of people out there who are not FMB trained, then they start to think, hey, actually 可以做嘛, like easy to do, right? Like, okay, FMB, I think the money easy to come. Then I just hire somebody, one guy, you know, and then just hire the person and then do something like a concept or what, thinking it's a money-making thing, right? But then actually then they start to realize, oh no, it's not so easy, this and that. Then they start to realize that actually standard is important, but by that time it's a bit too late really.
I once went to a retail store trying to find a certain product, and none of the staff there knew whether it was still available in Singapore or not. Not to give the brand away, but it has a shopping app, so technically you can see whether it still has stock or not. And on the app it didn't have, so I wanted to be sure, right? So I went to the retail store to check if they still have it or if they had any idea to find out. And to me, I'm okay if you don't know, but the reply I got, if the app have, then have lah, if don't have, then don't have lah. Who the fuck doesn't have the common sense to figure that out, right? And I'm pretty sure that you guys have some sort of central system to figure out if you guys have it somewhere in your warehouse or your central storage or whatever it may be. More importantly, what I'm thinking is, if you can't offer any help, do you really need this job if technically I can find out everything on my own? So why is the right education important? And why is the biggest industry in this country the least educated? Many of the older generation are taught the supposed fastest way to educate. Just scream at the person till they get it. Talk about parenting, you talk about teaching, you talk about NS, you talk about work, bosses. We all experienced it somehow. And unfortunately, this is a byproduct of a city, a country, however you want to call it, that is growing way too fast for its people. And just going off script, right, because I just thought about this, totally not what I prepared at all. Back then when we were writing the podcast episodes, we did have an episode that we were planning to debate about whether it's important or necessary to have a culinary education to enter this industry.
There's a base level of knowledge to what you do and what you know, and I guess at least there are like official guidelines or markers to guide you through, and then from there, I think the rest of is like self-learning and experience as well.
Once you go into the industry, you also have people who had never been to culinary school and are thriving pretty well. The bottom line is it really that important? I would say it depends. But has it changed me in the sense where I feel like it was beneficial for me? I would say that it is, because you get that peer support group, and at the same time you get a level of exposure that you will not get if you embark on this journey yourself.
Technically, do we really need math? Do you really use your Pythagoras theorem in the end? But it at least makes you know what the hell it is, right?
And you kind of think that this is the only industry to have that. I mean, you know, now with the rise of YouTube and things like that, you kind of can pick up video or like even design or even music production just by the internet without any prior knowledge. But I don't think you can fake that. Whereas in food and beverage, FMB, it kind of seems like people take it as you can just slot it in. Most FMB people who are interested in doing like, or actually anyone, right? I want to open a cafe next time. And then you have friends around you who say, oh yeah, when you open it, I'll come and work for you. Imagine putting that whole scenario into, say, a tuition center. Can your friends say that? Can anyone will just volunteer themselves to say, hey, when you open your tuition center, I will work for you because I can teach, or I can just pick up teaching like that. Somehow it doesn't seem like that for other industries, but solely in the FMB industry, it feels like everyone just has that conception that you don't need education at all to run in the industry.
In the tuition center, right, the skills required to do the job definitely require some level of forms of education and accolades. Whereas for cooking, right, I think we all believe that the barrier entry is low, in a sense where when you first start off, right, a lot of people think that, oh, if you don't know how to cook, never mind, you can't even wash plates. So that's the lowest of the lowest barrier entry.
Even if I don't have any experience before, but I have somehow seen my parents cook before or something, I think naturally you will bound to have more interest in the FMB sector lah. Like, hey bro, I can help you lah, you come, you know. Whereas tuition, you will feel like, wow, maybe more stressful. Like you need to teach somebody, or not so fun if you want to put it that way. But even if you help, it's more about money.
A lot of people will assume that working in a restaurant is a lot easier to enter than to help someone in a tuition center. Because the first thing comes to mind, tuition center, what am I going to do? Am I going to stand at the reception? Do I know how to answer to the parents? Do I know what to say? What specific things I have to tell them? I don't know. Do I know how to schedule the classes? I don't know. Do I know how to teach the students? I don't know. But do I know how to wash plates? I do, because I do it at home. Yeah, that's the difference.
Sometimes also different. Some people wash at home, then they wash like that at restaurant, cannot bro, because you need to wash fast.
Yeah.
So back to the whys, I think for the most part, as mentioned before, it's really about the culture. Food trade was the fastest and easiest way to make a business back then, and the craft may never have been the focus. This creates the practice of function over education. The whole just do it, don't ask so much mindset is rampant in Singapore, right? You face it everywhere. You hear it from teachers, you hear it from your own parents, you hear it from NS for the gentlemen. And I think that's what's so awful in education, because the whole crux of education is all about understanding. If you don't understand why you do a certain thing, why are you even learning that thing?
In primary or secondary school, we were taught global warming. As we get older, we see more signs of it, and then we understand it. But back then, you just probably want to study it to pass, right? No one really gives a shit, right?
Back to the food thing, I guess you can get away with it when it's food push carts, constantly just churning out volume. But as the food scene develops, it's no longer as simple.
Over the years, food has started to be a bit more appreciated. Now that prices are a bit skyrocketing and stuff. But because it's a commodity, you can't expect it to be treated any better. It should be, but the reality that it's so accessible and you have really diversifying prices, right?
Proper education breeds a better environment as well. When we understand a product or a process better, we ultimately teach better just purely by the possession of the knowledge. Yes, someone with incredible knowledge can still call you a donkey! But in my opinion, it's harder to respect somebody who just screams at you when he doesn't know what he's talking about. I feel it's very easy to jump to conclusions quickly. Why is that cashier so rude? Why is that customer so entitled? But I also think it's not difficult to see the problem when you strict everything back to the root of its problem. How can we solve this?
I don't know.
Maybe you can make mandatory training funded by the government so that everyone can go for a customer service training class. Better tools and better education platforms that is subsidized by the government so that anyone from part-timers to full-timers can get better knowledge to learn about these things better. I mean, we do have upgrading classes sponsored for bankers, HR, designers, project management. But why don't we have that for FMB? And let's face it, most gripes on Google reviews are always service related. It is a skill and we should not downplay it. However, without being a preachy fool with like cliche answers, I think just being kind is really the easiest way to go about it.
Everything is a two-way street. Like we can't say that it's the customer's fault for not putting in the effort to go and think, wow, they spend so much time and effort to make this plate of rice for me, and all I did was just say that it's not nice. Instead of saying that, oh, this is not something I'm used to eating. From our point of view, this is what we expect out of an ideal customer. But at the same time, there has to be a balance. What we are trying to advocate is for customers to be more discerning, which I believe they are right now very discerning. They can tell the difference between what's the quality fish. They can see, oh, a bit slimy, don't smell very good, looks a bit green, not very great, quality is bad. So these are things that customers are picking up on. But we as chefs, we have to uphold that integrity. Like we know that, hey, to us this is possible, but you know, maybe we think that the customer don't know one, we just do, it's okay. From our point of view, we should uphold the integrity and not do it. But from our customer's point of view, it's also maybe also appreciate the fact that we do it, or maybe be more mindful, like, oh, this is the amount of effort they went through in order to make this dish.
Ultimately, food is a commodity, but just because it is, doesn't mean it shouldn't be treated seriously or without respect to the person who makes it.
People need to understand more. Be open-minded and understand more. If they truly don't understand, then it will just be a continuous loop.
As a consumer, when you see this with a different lens, right, I feel like not only do you enhance your ability to appreciate a lot of things, but you also enhance your ability to go and experience things with your own eyes, your own opinion, and be an elevated human being in that sense.
Until you really understand what's happening, and then I think people start paying more attention to it. It's a cause and effect thing. You need to be burned a bit so you learn.
Just because you cook at home doesn't mean you're better than a hawker. Just because you have this trinket of knowledge from a YouTube video doesn't mean it's universally applied to everything that you see in the industry.
There are a lot more things that go into just cooking than just what you see on video and applying it in a restaurant. Because in a restaurant, we apply things like portioning. We want to do things that are scalable. We want to do things that, you know, from a small portion, you can do become for 10 portion. Whereas for a home cook, it's not something you think about.
So yeah, the tangent went places, but in summary, the low barrier of entry does pose problems. But I do feel that a lot of these can be mitigated through proper education and just simple basic respect from both sides of the table. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? Do let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. And if you like this video, do like this video and subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.